One forgotten estate, one handwritten promise from Queen Elizabeth II. And according to this story, what Prince William inherited wasn't simply another royal property, it was a secret legacy so carefully protected that even senior members of the royal family reportedly didn't know it existed until recently. According to the narrative, the moment the documents were opened inside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere changed completely. There were no celebrations, no public announcement, no smiling family photographs. Instead, palace insiders allegedly watched as a decades-old plan quietly unfolded, a plan the late Queen had been preparing long before anyone realized what she was protecting. But what reportedly shocked everyone wasn't just the existence of the hidden estate. It was the name written beside it. Prince William. Not King Charles, not Queen Camilla, not anyone else, just William. And according to the story, that single decision triggered one of the most private and emotionally charged battles the palace had seen in years. Before we uncover why the late Queen allegedly trusted William with a secret that had remained hidden for more than 80 years, take a second to subscribe. We bring you powerful royal stories, hidden history, and the untold moments behind the crown. Now, let's begin. According to the story, the mystery stretches back to the darkest days of the Second World War, while Britain fought for survival and royal attention remained fixed on the war effort. King George VI quietly purchased a remote estate hidden deep within the Chiltern Hills. Unlike royal residences known to the public, this property was never celebrated, never added to tourist guides, and never discussed during official engagements. According to the narrative, its very purpose was secrecy. For more than 8 decades, the estate reportedly remained absent from public records. Only a handful of trusted advisors and senior royal officials allegedly knew it even existed. To everyone else, including many historians, it was simply another chapter of royal history that had never been written. That silence, according to the story, was intentional, because this wasn't just another country house. It was said to contain private wartime correspondence, confidential royal archives, rare family portraits, and deeply personal records connected to some of the monarchy's most sensitive moments. According to one account, the collection represented something far more valuable than land or money. It represented the private memory of the royal family itself. Then, according to the narrative, everything changed in early 2026. A confidential briefing reportedly confirmed that the estate would pass directly into Prince William's hands through a private legal arrangement established years earlier by Queen Elizabeth II herself. The transfer wasn't linked to the Crown Estate or the Duchy of Cornwall. Instead, the story claims it had been protected inside a sealed covenant trust designed to activate only after very specific royal events had taken place. If true, it meant the Queen had planned this transition years in advance. But the biggest surprise was still to come. According to the story, William hadn't discovered the estate in 2026. He had quietly been visiting it for years. The narrative claims he walked through its ancient woodlands alongside his grandmother, helped organize historic archives, reviewed wartime letters, and spent hours learning the history hidden behind its locked doors. These weren't public engagements. There were no photographers, no speeches, and no headlines. Just a grandmother quietly preparing her grandson for a responsibility almost nobody else knew existed. According to the account, Queen Elizabeth eventually left behind a handwritten note explaining why she had chosen William. It reportedly read, "He will inherit more than the crown. He will inherit the silence that preserved it." Those words, if authentic, transformed the story from an ordinary inheritance into something much bigger. Because according to the narrative, the Queen wasn't simply passing down land, she was protecting a legacy. But if William had quietly been chosen years earlier, one question immediately followed inside palace walls. Why were others allegedly trying so hard to gain control of the very same estate? According to the story, the late Queen's decision wasn't made at the last moment. It had been quietly prepared years in advance. The narrative claims that in 2020, Queen Elizabeth II created a private legal arrangement unlike anything normally associated with royal property. Rather than placing the estate under the Crown Estate or the Duchy of Cornwall, she reportedly protected it through a sealed covenant trust, a legal structure designed to remain completely dormant until very specific conditions had been met. Those conditions were simple, but significant. The Queen's state funeral had to be completed, and Prince William had to formally assume his role as the future guardian of the monarchy. Only then, according to the story, would the trust activate automatically. If the reports are accurate, that meant the Queen had already decided years earlier who she wanted to protect this remarkable estate. It wasn't a decision made in response to palace politics. It was a plan carefully written while she was still alive. According to the narrative, palace lawyers quietly opened the sealed documents shortly after those conditions had been fulfilled. The wording was reportedly brief but unmistakable. The estate would pass into Prince William's exclusive guardianship. No shared ownership, no joint administration, no outside authority. Just William. For many inside royal circles, that wasn't the surprising part. The real surprise was why the Queen had reportedly gone to such extraordinary lengths to protect it. According to the story, William had already been visiting the estate long before anyone outside the palace had even heard its name. During private weekends, he allegedly walked through its woodland paths beside his grandmother, studied wartime correspondence stored inside secure archive rooms, and helped preserve documents connected to the monarchy's hidden history. There were no official photographers, no speeches, and no press releases. The narrative suggests those visits weren't ordinary family gatherings. They were lessons. Queen Elizabeth wasn't simply showing her grandson an estate. She was teaching him how to become its guardian. Then came the handwritten note that reportedly changed everything. According to the story, the Queen left a personal message inside the trust, explaining why she had chosen William above everyone else. He will inherit more than the crown. He will inherit the silence that preserved it. Whether those exact words can be independently verified remains unclear. But within the narrative, they explain the Queen's thinking better than any legal document ever could. She wasn't rewarding William with valuable land, she was entrusting him with responsibility. But according to the story, not everyone welcomed that decision. The narrative claims that while William was quietly preparing to preserve the estate, Queen Camilla and her son Tom Parker Bowles had very different ideas about its future. According to the allegations, discussions reportedly began about transforming parts of the property into heritage attractions, exclusive dining experiences, and luxury cultural events. Supporters reportedly described those ideas as ways to celebrate British history, while critics inside the story saw them as the beginning of commercializing a place the late Queen had intended to remain untouched. Whether those plans were ever close to becoming reality remains disputed, but according to the narrative, William reportedly learned about the proposals and chose not to respond publicly. No interviews, no accusations, no palace drama. Instead, he quietly allowed the Covenant Trust to take effect exactly as his grandmother had intended. And according to the story, that single legal move ended years of alleged planning almost overnight. But this hidden estate wasn't the only surprise the Queen reportedly left behind, because according to the narrative, another forgotten royal property would soon reveal just how many moves she had planned, years before anyone else saw the game. As palace lawyers continued reviewing Queen Elizabeth II's private papers, the narrative claims they uncovered several more protected properties, each allegedly secured through carefully written legal clauses years before her passing. Unlike the public royal estates, these holdings were reportedly intended to remain outside political influence and commercial pressure, ensuring they would be preserved exactly as the Queen had envisioned. One property after another was said to pass quietly into Prince William's stewardship. To outsiders, they were simply pieces of valuable land. But according to the narrative, Elizabeth saw them very differently. They were places that preserved the monarchy's history, traditions, and private memories, assets that, in her view, should never become commercial ventures. That, according to the story, created growing frustration behind palace walls. The narrative alleges that Queen Camilla and Tom Parker Bowles had explored ideas involving heritage tourism, luxury hospitality, and premium branding connected to some of these properties. Whether those discussions ever reached an official stage remains unverified. But within the story, they reflected a very different vision for the estate's future. William, however, reportedly had no intention of changing the purpose his grandmother had set for them. Instead of responding through interviews or public statements, he simply relied on the legal framework Elizabeth had already put in place. One by one, the trusts became active. One by one, the estates were transferred. And one by one, any reported attempts to reshape them reportedly came to an end. According to palace insiders quoted in the narrative, William never viewed these estates as personal trophies. He saw them as responsibilities that had to be protected for future generations. That quiet approach, the story suggests, reflected the very lesson Queen Elizabeth had spent years teaching him. But according to the narrative, the Queen had saved her most important message for last, and it would explain why she trusted William above everyone else. Queen Elizabeth's final legacy was never really about land. It was about trust. As the last legal documents were reportedly opened, the narrative claims they revealed a consistent pattern. Every protected estate carried the same underlying purpose to preserve the monarchy's history rather than profit from it. Whether those stories are entirely accurate remains unverified, but they present a queen who was thinking decades ahead, carefully deciding who she believed would protect that responsibility. For Prince William, the reported transfers represented far more than an inheritance. They symbolized confidence from the woman who had spent more than 70 years on the throne. Instead of responding to controversy with public confrontation, William reportedly allowed the legal decisions made by his grandmother to speak for themselves. According to the story, that quiet approach ultimately ended the dispute without dramatic palace battles or emotional public statements. The estates remained protected, the trusts remained in force, and the Queen's wishes continued to guide their future. Perhaps that's why this story has captured so much attention. It isn't simply about hidden estates, or sealed legal documents, or even royal family disagreements. It's about a grandmother who reportedly spent years preparing her grandson for responsibilities the public never knew existed, and a future king determined to protect what she believed mattered most. Whether every claim in this narrative proves true or not, one thing is certain. Queen Elizabeth II's influence did not end with her reign. According to this story, it continues through every decision she carefully planned for the future of the crown. Do you believe Queen Elizabeth truly planned years ahead to protect the monarchy's future? Or do you think these reports go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful royal stories and hidden chapters from history.